Right now, the gay rights movement, so-called gay rights movement, has presented to the culture, and the culture has swallowed hook, line, and sinker, that there are two, and most likely more, different sexualities they call orientations: heterosexuality and homosexuality. That's not right. And it's pretty easy to glean even from just a biological beginning point. There is only one sexuality, and it's geared at reproduction. That's the goal. This flies in the face of the conventional and non-stop drum banging that I was born this way or God made me this way. No, a person's sexual organs exist to provide the means and mechanism for procreation. Period. That's what they were made for. A person, every person is biologically oriented for reproduction. Fact. So every person is conceived and born a biological heterosexual. Now, a word about the word heterosexual. The terms heterosexual and homosexual, the actual words, were coined by a German in the late 19th century named Karl Maria Kurt Benny, who was trying to put the idea into people's minds that there are two types of sexuality, one oriented to the opposite sex and the other oriented to the same sex. But this simply isn't true. If we use the analogy of a vase, for example, Kurt Benny tried to present the picture that there are two different vases, one red and one blue, say, and that each one was equally valid, just different. But the reality is what Kurt Benny called homosexuality is not a different vase, but actually just the one vase broken. The Catholic version is that sexuality is one, and that owing to many different forces, some of which are not completely understood, that single human sexuality simply becomes damaged, it becomes broken. And for the record, that damage can occur in many different ways and be manifested in many different ways. Most people are willing, for example, to admit that there is something mentally off or psychologically wrong with an adult who is sexually attracted to a child. But if you read interviews with some of these adults, they say, this is just how they are. God made me this way. I was born this way. In fact, most psychologists seem to admit there is no way to cure this attraction. All that can be done is try to control the behavior. But if the so-called gay rights lobby can claim that God made them this way, or I was born this way, why can't, say, an 18-year-old male say the same thing about a 14-year-old female? Or even more, why can't a 25-year-old male make that claim about a 15-year-old male? Within the larger homosexual community is a subset of adult men who want the age of sexual consent lowered so they can have sex with teenage boys. The group is called NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association. In all honesty, if their fellow homosexuals can say God made them that way, who are these homosexuals to turn around and tell their brother homosexuals that they are sick and depraved, that their sexuality is all wrong? And before the argument is trotted out that these are children and not able to give consent, let's remind viewers that age of consent laws are just that, laws. They can be changed at will by any government. And depending on which country you're in, the age of consent is different, suggesting that there is an arbitrariness to the laws, which is precisely the point that the NAMBLA crowd points to. See, when you walk away from not just marriage, but even more basic and authentic understanding of sexuality, the door opens up for anything. Homosexuality is damaged heterosexuality, not a different orientation. Just as ephebophilia is a deeply damaged expression of human sexuality, not a different orientation, just as pedophilia is a deeply damaged expression of human sexuality, not a different orientation, and so forth. What both sides need to accept is this basic starting point. People who have same-sex attraction are wounded people, and there's nothing to be ashamed of in being wounded. Everyone is wounded in one or many ways. Some wounds are worse than others. Some go deeper than others. Some are harder to cope with. We lay out there that homosexual acts are sinful and the orientation is disordered, what the Catholic Church teaches. What must be extended is love and compassion and understanding, even if it must be extraordinary for the extraordinarily wounded. What we cannot do is try to rewrite nature and pass laws which ignore nature. Homosexuality is damaged heterosexuality. Until this reality is faced in the culture and the parishes, things will continue to spin out of control. God love you. I'm Michael Voris.